John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and what we're going to do today is a good old-fashioned juice off. We're going to figure out which one of these horizontal single auger juicers are more efficient at juicing leafy greens. Now, I have been told by Omega that Omega claims their new model, the Omega NC800, is like 7 to 12% more efficient than their older model, the Omega 8004 series machines. And furthermore, there's somebody that posted a review online that says, you know, I got the new one and it's all hype, you know, it made foamier, it didn't work as good on leafy greens. So today we're going to find out what is the truth. All I can say from my experience, in the NC800 has been sitting on my counter for the last several months since I got one, trying it, using it, and it definitely works better, in my opinion, than the old 8000 series. For the main reason is the larger feed chute makes it significantly easier to use. Matter of fact, it uses the same exact auger in both machines. The other differences are the screen area, or the juicing screen has 25% more screen area than the older one, which means probably enhanced and increased yield. And the other final difference is on this end cap, and I want to show you guys this. This is the part that may cause some confusion for some people. If you like to not set it and forget it and have no settings, then this is the machine for you, because there's no settings on this one. You put the cap on and it's a preset tension. On the new model, what happens is this one has a tensioner that'll allow and keep extra pressure on the pulp to keep it in the machine longer to allow more juice to come out. Of course, if you don't want to use this, you can actually just put the juicer together like this, and then it's still going to work, but your pulp's going to come out wetter. For this reason and the reason of the more screen area, I believe the NC800 is going to do better on the leafy greens than the prior model, but let's find out. So I'm not going to get into the specific differences between these two models. I will say you want to check my past videos where actually I compared these guys in detail. The main difference is that this is the new model. It actually has the same power motor as both of them, and the feed chute size is bigger on this. The screen area is larger. It also has the adjustment, which will take some getting used to. Basically, when it's set at 0, it's going to come off, and at 1 it puts very little back pressure. At 5 it puts the most back pressure. So you're going to want to keep it at like 1 for like fruits, and if things start backing up your feed chute, and you're going to keep it on 5 for everything else to get maximum extraction out of your juice. Another cool thing is that the new NC800 comes with these cool snazzy collection containers here that are nice and clear, whereas the old 8004 comes with these collection bins that are kind of like, you know, kind of not quite as clear. So I like these. They also hold a little bit more as well. So without further ado, let's get into the juice off. First, we're going to juice in the Omega NC800. What we're juicing today, for ease of use and convenience, are the Earthbound Farm Organic Spring Mix. So these are some baby greens. You know, your results may vary if you're juicing large, old kale leaves from the store that have been sitting on the store shelf, you know, for a week. I always encourage you guys to get the freshest greens as possible, including growing them yourself. Today, because these are pre-measured, we're just going to use these. Rip these guys open. They're pre-measured, pre-washed, so I like that a lot. We're just going to go ahead and turn this machine on right now. Nice and quiet, runs at a slow 80 RPMs. And we're just going to take handfuls of leaves and stick them in the feed chute. Now, I like that the feed chute on the NC800 is 82% larger than the feed chute over on the 8004. This will make you know, feeding the greens in much easier. So as you guys can see, we're juicing the greens in the NC800. We got the pulp coming out here, and it is quite dry. Little bit of foam coming out, but a lot of juice coming out. This is so far very efficient. Now, I definitely recommend, if you want to juice the majority of what you're going to juice leafy greens, I definitely recommend a horizontal single auger style machine, such as one of the ones on the table. They by far are going to do the best job on the leafy greens. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a close-up on the NC800 working and explain why this works so well on the leafy greens. Check it out. As you guys can see, I'm pushing in some of the leafy greens into the NC800. They're going in there. The auger is coming around. It's basically getting the greens, and it's smushing the greens into a smaller and smaller space through the cone here until the juice is then pressed out the final area with the screen, and the pulp comes out super dry. Man, this is some of the super driest pulp I've seen on any juicer. Now you might be thinking, John, why are you juicing all those leafy greens, man? Well, you know, to me, leafy greens are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. What does nutrient-dense mean? This means that it has a lot of nutrients with very little calories. Most Americans eat a diet high in calories but low in nutrients. Leafy greens are the exact opposite of a standard American diet. So if you want what the standard American gets, then do what the standard American does. If you want the opposite, then do the opposite. You know, 66% of the standard Americans are overweight or obese, and that's not what I want. I want to do the exact opposite. So that's why I eat a nutrient-dense diet rich in leafy greens. After all, one of my goals is to eat 2 pounds of leafy greens a day. You're thinking, man, John, 2 pounds of leafy greens, that's a lot. Well, right now we're taking 1 pound of leafy greens. We're literally putting it through the juicer, and when we're done, we'll probably get about 1.25 cups or so of juice. And I'll be very easily and simply being able to drink the 1 cup of juice out very easily and get the nutrition from the greens, less the fiber. So this does take some time because the machine does run at a low RPM. One of the things I want to let you guys know is that those high-speed machines, the Breville's and all those ones, jackling, they sound like an airplane taking off in your kitchen. If you try to juice these leafy greens, the 1 pound of leafy greens that I'm juicing today, in one of those machines, you would get very little juice. Every juicer works a little bit differently. The slow machines, like the horizontal style machines, are the best juicers for leafy greens. The ejection juicers are the worst. I would encourage you guys to check out my other videos where I compare the different styles of juicers to find out which one is best for you. Now, while this one is definitely excellent at juicing the leafy greens, it'll also juice the carrots and the apples and beets and celery, just like the high-speed machines will. But that being said, it will just take a little bit longer. In addition, on those high-speed machines, you actually may get a little bit higher yield on things like carrots because the centrifugal ejection design is optimal for juicing carrots. This style machine will definitely juice carrots and not maybe yield as much, maybe 10 to 15% less, but you're going to get a higher nutrient quality. In general, the lower the RPMs, the higher the nutrition of the juice that you're creating. One of the reasons why I drink the juice is not for the taste of it, because some of the stuff, frankly, doesn't taste too good, but it's for the nutrition, because our bodies crave nutrition, and in this day and age, we're eating a lot of processed foods and junk foods that, once again, have a lot of calories, but minimal amount of nutrition. The more a food is processed, you know, when you take whole wheat flour and make it white flour, you lose nutrition. So we want to use the whole vegetables as they come out of nature, you know, fresh, for the highest nutrition. So as you guys can see, the greens are going in here. We're getting the pulp out. One of the things I'm noticing now after juicing for a while is that the greens aren't kind of going in super easily. There's kind of some kind of backup. So what we could do at this point is we could loosen up, because we are on 5, we could loosen it to 4. The other thing I've been doing is just actually holding this down steady to kind of keep some pressure on it, because as you put the pressure in, all the buildup of pulp needs to go somewhere, and it's just going to end up coming out. So we're just going to take our time and feed the rest of these greens in to the Omega NC800. Now, one of the cool things about the Omega NC800 and also the Omega 8004 is that besides just juicing, these juicers are called nutrition centers. So they allow you to do more than just juice. For example, if you want to make dietary changes in your life and you want to get away from eating ice cream because it's high in calories and may have corn syrup, which could be GMO, and it could have monodiglycerides and preservatives and all this kind of stuff, these machines will allow you to take frozen bananas, put them through what's called a blank plate instead of the juicing screen, and make a frozen banana sorbet, which is 100% frozen fruits, which is really delicious and a lot more nutritious than any ice cream ever will be. So this will allow you to eat a diet richer in fruits and vegetables, and to me, that's what it's all about. The fruits and vegetables are some of the best foods on the planet to eat in terms of the most nutrition for the least amount of calories. So the majority of my diet is actually fruits and vegetables. Alright, so as we're juicing the last little bit, we're definitely clogged up in this juicer. Some of it, the pulp is just not getting pushed through. There will probably be excess pulp in the juicer when we're finished. This is for the very simple reason because we're putting a lot of back pressure on it. Another reason is because if we were juicing like the leafy greens with some celery, we would put some celery in right now, and that would help push out those leafy greens, or we could put a piece of carrot through. That'll help push those leafy greens through the machine. But we're doing a solid test where we're only juicing the leafy greens, so I don't want to mess this test up by adding something else. Let's go ahead and add the last little bit of these leafy greens in the machine. Alright, so that's all the leafy greens into the juicer. To get the final bit out, I'm going to go ahead and sit with my hand on the pusher. Now, you may be tempted to stick a knife, fork, spoon, or other thing in there. John, if I stuck a spoon in there, I could kind of push it in there and get every last bit in there. Don't do it! Let me tell you now, don't do it. I've had ex-girlfriends, friends, and customers email me, John, I stuck a knife in the juicer and now my juicer's damaged and it's not covered under warranty. Now I gotta buy $100 worth of parts. Don't do it. Only stick the pusher into the juicer. Ever. Don't stick your fingers, knives, forks, your friend's pencil, nothing in the juicer except the pusher. The way to do this, if you wanted to add something to it, is I would actually juice some celery or something once again to kind of get this to push in. This is kind of rotating and something's coming out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead just to try to get this stuff worked through. There's too much back pressure. We're going to go ahead and take this cap off, and we're going to see if we can get some of that stuff to come through the machine. Another thing you can do that I wouldn't do in this test because it's going to mess up the test is you can actually take this pulp back through the machine that's actually really dry. I mean, I could squeeze it, I'm squeezing it, and like no juice dripped on the table, very little juice came to my hands. I mean, this pulp is some of the driest pulp you will ever see when juicing leafy greens. So that's pretty much it. Some of the stuff kind of went through a little bit more that we took off the end cap, but not much. We're going to go ahead and turn this guy off now, and now we're going to focus over here to the Omega 8004 Nutrition Center. Now the Omega 8004 Nutrition Center is identical to the Omega 8006. The Omega 8006 is the chrome-plated plastic version of the 8004. It's going to cost you more money. Likewise, the Omega NC800 is the silver version, and the NC900 is the chrome-plated plastic version. So the NC800, NC900 are identical except for color. Omega 8004, 8006 are identical except for color. Now the Omega 8003 and 8005 are pretty much identical to the 8004 series in the operation, in the main juicing parts. Only the shape of the housing is different and the materials that some of that parts are made out of is different. Plus the warranty is different as well. So let's see, let's go ahead and open this guy up. We got all our delicious leafy greens in here. Gonna go ahead and turn this machine on, and we have a little bit different pusher for this machine, and unfortunately the feed chute size is significantly smaller on the Omega 8004, so we're gonna have to take and cram and shove these down a little bit at a time. Alright, so after feeding in some of the produce into this little feed chute, which is 82% smaller, we will definitely have to use the pusher to push this stuff in. It's definitely going to take a little bit longer to feed the produce into the Omega 8004 than the NC800. It might be the easiest just to put a little bit each time and go down with a plunger. And I mean, you're just going to have to do this repeatedly till we're all out. I definitely liked how I could pre-feed the NC800 because of the 82% larger feed chute. A lot easier. Alright, so I want to give you guys a close-up on actually how this is juicing. I mean, it's pretty much almost identical to how the NC800 works. It's pretty much no different. As you guys can see, we push the produce into the auger. The auger comes around and spins, catches it, and compresses and squeezes it into a smaller and smaller space until the juice is extracted. Now, both these machines are dual-stage single auger juicers. What this means is that upon the initial crush, juice is released, and it comes out stage 1 of the juicing screen, and then further along it goes to stage 2 and it's pressed again. There are still single auger machines on the market that are single stage single auger machines that in my testing actually get lower yields for most things than the dual stage machines, which are, in my opinion, the more current state of the art. So if I had to say something, the Omega 8004 definitely takes longer than the NC800. I'd say even maybe twice the time, just because we really got to just keep putting a little bit in and pushing it in each and every time. For me alone, time is money, and I prefer the convenience of the Omega NC800. I've never really personally liked the horizontal style auger juicers just because of the smaller feed chute, unless I was juicing something like wheatgrass or straight leafy greens. Myself, I've always preferred the vertical machines, but with the new NC800, it's definitely gained a place on the countertop in the kitchen, because I will use that a lot more than one of these guys, just because of the ease of use and the feed chute. I mean, to me, that makes all the difference. Even if I'm losing a little bit in yield, I'd rather have the convenience, and not have to sit here and, plug away with shoving in each small feed chute of produce. Now, one of the things I want to let you guys know is that, we are juicing straight leafy greens. Many of you guys may not juice straight leafy greens. Straight leafy green juice can be very strong, and I don't necessarily recommend drinking it like straight kale juice. Basically, the spring mix is mostly lettuce, so it's lettuce with some radicchio leaves, some spinach leaves, and some baby chard leaves. So it's going to be a relatively mild juice to drink. It's not going to be super hardcore. In general, my rule of thumb is that you want 75% of your glass when you make a juice of a standard of base vegetables. So this could be things like cucumbers, zucchini, celery, or carrots. Also things like apples, romaine hearts are things that I would use as my base. And that would make up the majority of my juice, and then 25% of my juice would be the leafy green juice, because it is so strong. Another thing I'm noticing is that when I am feeding in the greens into the Omega 8004, the funnel is actually smaller. I like the larger funnel on the NC800 because I'm dropping actually a few leaves or missing the funnel and actually going into the juice on the bottom there. Another thing I want to mention is that the Omega 8004 includes an accessory strainer that fits over the top of your collection cup, whereas the NC800 does not. We will be straining both the juices to determine which juicer created more foam and which created more pulp in the juice, if any. They should be fairly similar. So keep that in mind. If you do get the NC800, you will want to go out and buy an accessory strainer or sieve from a department store, so you can strain out your juice further if you don't want the pulp. These juicers are relatively good at leaving very little pulp in the juice when juicing leafy greens, but if juicing something like carrots or apples, they do tend to make a pulpier juice. After feeding, once again, a lot of these leafy greens into the Omega 8004, it is actually getting kind of backed up, and it's harder to push some of this produce in. There's quite a bit of resistance. That, once again, is caused because we don't have enough nice, hard, fibrous material to clean that juicer out to push the pulp through. It would help significantly if we juiced something like celery or carrots, after every handful of leafy greens. I do want to encourage you guys, whether you get the NC800 or the Omega 8004, you want to watch my best practices video for these style machines. It's actually entitled Common Questions and Answers on Omega 8004, 8006 series machines. And all those same common questions will apply to the NC800 as well, because after all, these are big brother and little brother. So we're juicing the last few handfuls of leafy greens in the Omega 8004. Get all those in there. And due to the shape of the pusher, you can see I'm getting a lot of extra residual pulp on the pusher. In addition, there's a little O-ring in the pusher, and pulp and juice seem to get stuck in there. They get harder to clean. For that reason, I like the pusher on the NC800. It's not have all these nooks and crannies. So we're just going to go ahead and push the rest of these greens into the 8004, and then we're going to be able to check the yield. Alright, so we're pushing the last bit of Leafy greens into the Omega 8004. As you guys can see in here, we still got a kind of a log jam or a pulp jam in here. All of the pulp is not going through. Once again, this could be rectified by putting some of this pulp back through the machine, feeding in a carrot or a celery. Alright, I think we're pretty much good. We're going to go ahead and let that run for a second and let it drip off. What I'd like to do now is put up on the screen the total time to juice in the NC800 and the Omega 8004. As you guys can see, it took definitely less time to juice in the Omega NC800. For me alone, I like that it's a lot easier to use just because of the larger feed chute. It makes it more practical. You know, I want to take away the hindrances of juicing for you. I make videos so that you guys can see exactly how the machines work before you buy them. I mean, I have over 300 videos now on YouTube that show juicing in different machines, juicing different items, so you guys can get a really good idea about that. You know, if you buy a juicer that has a smaller feed chute and it's more of a pain in the butt to use, then you're going to use it less. I want to sell you a juicer that you're actually going to use each and every day to make a difference in your life so that you can get healthier, lose weight, and meet your nutritional goals. So keep that in mind if you're buying a juicer. I mean, I'm really favoring the NC800 at this point. Anyways, let's check out the yield, because a lot of you guys, the yield's the most important thing. You don't care if it's a smaller feed chute if you get a higher yield. So let's go ahead and turn this machine off and check out the yields next. So next, let's go ahead and measure the yields, the part you guys have been waiting for. If you already own one of these guys, you're wondering, man, is my juicer really good enough? And if you haven't gotten one yet, you're like, should I get this one or this one based on yield? Let's find out. We got your standard Anchor Hawking 4-cup measuring cup thing. And we're going to use a strainer on both juicers to catch the residual pulp and foam that's contained within. And once again, we got the same exact measuring cup and strainer. Next, go ahead and let's check out the pulps. The pulp over on the Omega 8004. This is all the pulp that was created. I'm going to go ahead and try to squeeze the juice out. As you guys can see, I'm definitely squeezing a fair bit of juice out. Coming right out, actually a whole bunch. Not too much. I mean, it's still a lot of drips. My hand's still a bit moist from all that pulp. We're going to go ahead and once again grab the Omega NC800 pulp. We're going to go ahead and squeeze that out. And I can squeeze out a little bit of juice. I'd probably say a little bit less, but not much. The true test is the yield test. So we're going to go ahead and take the Omega NC800 juice over on this side and the Omega 8004 juice over on this side. We're going to carefully pour it through the strainers. About the same time, let's see which one created more pulp, more foam, and more importantly, more juice. Alright, so check it out. Looks like that guy that wrote the review that said the NC800 is all hogwash, made more foam, because according to me, looks like the NC800 actually made less foam. Although it looked like also the NC800 actually also made more pulp in the juice. But the Omega 8004 made more foam, but potentially less pulp in the juice. So that's very interesting. So we got these pretty much shaken out. Let's go ahead and show you guys the pulp created and the foam created. So here's the pulp and foam in the NC800, and here's the pulp and foam in the Omega 8004. So it looks like the NC800 actually made more pulp but less foam, and the 8004 made more foam and a little bit less pulp. That being said, let's check the yield, because that's what it's all about. So let's go ahead and do a close-up and check the yields. As you guys can see, on the Omega NC800 it produced a little bit over 1 1/4 cups of juice. Over on the Omega 8004 side it produced a little over a cup of juice. So in this test, it clearly shows that the Omega NC800 produced 25% more juice than the 8004. Now, of course, your results may vary depending on the produce you're juicing, how fast you're feeding. So I think this is a fairly legitimate test. All in all, the Omega NC800 with its 25% larger screen area, 82% larger feed chute, and adjustable end cap. I mean, these are all design changes to allow you to juice more effectively, whether it's easier because of the larger feed chute, or whether it's because of more yield, because the screen area has more holes to let more juice out, plus you're going to keep a little bit more back pressure on it. Super amazing. The next thing is we're going to go ahead and taste the juice. Now that's a fairly mild green juice as they come, but most of you guys probably wouldn't like it. I'd probably like a little bit more if I had some celery, some apple, and maybe a little bit of lemon in there. And if I wanted a good kick to it, add some ginger and it'd be the bomb. So alright, so it's time to crown the winner of this juice off. So, drum roll please. The winner of this juice off is the Omega NC800. 25% more yield, easier to use. Did great, more adjustable. The only caveat is you're going to have to learn how to adjust this knob to get optimal yield so that it does not back up on you. Worst case is you could take this off and you're pretty much going to have the 8004 plus probably a higher yield still because of the 25% increase in the screen size. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode learning more about the Omega NC800 and the Omega 8004. Be sure to watch my other video that I'll put a link of in the end of this video to learn more specifically about the differences between the NC800 and the 8004 so that you can make the best juicer decisions so that you can get a juicer in your life today, start using it tomorrow, and make a change in your health for the better. Once again, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors. Right, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and I got the all-new NC800 juicer. This is the video you guys have been waiting for. It's the juicer that I've been waiting for because I tried it at the trade show several months back, and now